So there's one moment in this whole thing where it got a little ominous for me, and that's they're on the balcony and then everybody looks expectant, right? And then I have this, here's and here's the kids, right? The prince and princess, their future, right? They're all standing there in the balcony, and then the helicopters came.
Yes.
Which, even if you still embarrassed didn't know the Elvish, if you've been reading too much Tolkien, of course, that's the eagles are coming, right? It's like it's completely unsurprising that, you know, air power is what lifts the hobbits, you know, Sam and Frodo off from the blasted, you know, volcano after they've done their mission. The eagles come in and lift them out, just like helicopters. Although I don't think they have helicopters in World War II, do they? Guys, you got to help me. But the helicopters for us are, of course, this is my father served in Thailand during the Vietnam conflict as a surgeon, and he said, you know, those helicopters come in, those are the bodies that they're bringing for you to operate on. Everybody's seen MASH, they know what that is. That was a lot less funny, my dad said, when they were watching it on base, when the helicopters would be coming in. And so, I mean, it is very interesting, therefore, that Harry was a helicopter pilot, because these are the most terrifying machines you could have brought in right at this moment. And it's like, it killed the whole thing for me. I was all happy with the horses and the gold and the people and the pageantry, and then the machines came, and I was reminded who we are.
The mechanic dragons.
Yep, the dragons came.
Mechanical dragons
came. And Harry used to fly one of these, so maybe it's better off. He's better off that he's not. Okay, sorry, I just had jokes about his wife. And then after the mechanical dragons came in, power of the Empire demonstrated in the smoke of the jets. And then it was rather sinister for me at this point, because this is, of course, how from the First World War, both the English and the the ever English, those of us who are not English in name anymore, but English in fact, in our language, in our political institutions, and in our command of the air. So, I mean, this reminded me of when Trump gave his 4th of July speech on 2020 at Mount Rushmore, and they had the Air Force. My dad was in the Air Force too, although he couldn't fly because his eyes weren't good enough. He learned to fly later in life and did little Cessnas and stuff. The air power, right? It's like, there's no wonder we dream of dragons and then make them, and then here's this set of 9 dragons trailing the red, white, and blue. That changed it for me. That was a suddenly moment. It's like, no, we're still in the dragon. Your guys are worrying about the human sins that the family has had. This is the power that we're really trapped by.
Yeah, the airwaves, the military, which isn't the militarism, and then what that actually is.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the
manuscript came from Italy, and now look what comes, you know, the power of the dragons. There was a comet over England when famously before the Battle of Hastings, and there were dragons when the Vikings came and sacked Lindisfarne. These dragons are bad news.
They consume.
They're what killed Beowulf in his greed. Well, actually, so Beowulf had to go fight the dragon because it having been stolen from, it was fire, you know, breathing fire over all the towns, and Beowulf had to go protect his people. He also wanted to see the gold. I think we've made this point, right? And then we look back to, here's the balcony, and then what you see, in fact, what the scene was, which was the people down below cheering for the people on the balcony, and those people on the balcony don't really get to leave that balcony unless they are Harry. So you guys being nasty in the chat about how, you know, Princess Charlotte looked beautiful. She did. She was sweetie. Lodi no more. The gravel copters. Well, yes. So to be fair, the protesters were arrested and removed from public spaces. This is true, right? Are they anti-Windsorians or anti-monarchists?
Oh, they're
anti-monarchists.
Yeah, they're full-blown Republicans.
Right.
Or socialists, or worse, whatever it is that they want.
I mean, it's astonishing that the people were able to, you know, accomplish this ritual with the you know, the solemnity and simplicity that they actually work, given all the currents that we are, you know, striving against constantly in the moment.
Yeah, kind of miraculous, isn't it? I don't know. We have our connection to Great Britain is because of those gravel copters, those helicopters. We exist as military service for the Empire. Australians, that is, not all of us, but, you know, the Australians are essentially an incorporated military training sort of culture where, you know, the highest ideal for the Australian is to serve and and fly dragons.
Right.
Essentially, that's what we are as a people. Without it, I'm not sure. I don't know what else there is really to kind of. There's no affinity at all with anything in the cathedral. Modernity culture here has led to full-blown rejection of traditional family structure. Nobody believes in patriarchy. I mean, obviously, Australia is probably one of the most feministic countries in the West because we lost 2 generations of men to the wars flying the gravel copters, which has embedded a matriarchy in the whole continent. So Australia is a matriarchy,
right,
completely. And then we're sort of run by people which are as Republican as they can get away with. Very odd moment to watch the ritual of the coronation and see that this is the reason for our existence as a country.
Mm-hmm.
And what our role is in it is to serve those machines that invaded the pageantry.
Yep.
That is our role, which is quite sad.
It's like I'd been surfing along and enjoying the marching and the sound of the feet, right? It's like all the gravel, marching on gravel. And there's a nice moment when the guards take their hats off and then and, hats off, and it's like, and I'm thinking about, Terry Pratchett is always about hats, right? Terry Pratchett, very great British satirist, and it's like, the hat makes it, right? The witch needs her hat. The king is a guy in a fancy hat. They took their hats off to the king, which was like, okay, this is the hat symbolism was we're gonna have to do a hat stream, I think.
Yes.
which of course, so yeah, the
hats of all shapes and sizes.
The hat streams. Yes. But the stream part is, of course, the thing that I indeed found most interesting. I've remarked several times on the camera angles that I was noticing and how you can be given the illusion of soaring like dragons in the abbey or over the people or over the streets and stuff. Where were the cameras? And the sort of fascinating thing is you realize, at least in the part around Buckingham Palace, they're right in the middle. That the actual, believe it or not, center of this entire ceremony. Well, if I put it like this, it's you, right? It's those of us who are watching on all of these streams, because if you see what happened to the fountain, they put the media in the fountain, right under the great golden winged statue, and it took me a while to realize what I was seeing, because like these were they're sort of ranked seating or something like that. I've started being on camera made me start noticing things about what you need to do to be able to do it, and 2, started noticing the way, of course, cameramen are always invisible now. We don't see them. We pretend they're not there. They're I don't know if there's God's eye, right? Because they're not. They're the ones who you pretend aren't there while they're in the middle of your wedding taking the photos. I was at Fatima in November, and the thing that riveted me most during Mass was the guys live streaming it from these little balconies. And here we have, no wonder you were able to watch this ceremony, because it's live stream, because these guys with the cameras are actually at the center of it all. Now where are we?
Whose attention's on who?
Oh yeah, that dragon that we keep telling you we're doing this Kickstarter about, of the attention, the internet, this absorption. And I mean, one of the things we're meditating on a lot in the poem is the mirroring effects, right? How the dragon watches itself watching itself. And always ceremony is always about the audience, because you are performing it's like the king. There's dissertations for decades on the way in which monarchs perform their sovereignty, right? I've read numerous versions of this particular argument. It's like, how do the kings in the Middle Ages perform their power? Well, they need an audience who recognizes it, and they need an audience watching it. So all of us watching this live stream, and the cameras that were there in the middle of it, were part of the power of the moment, obviously, because it's like we're there, and the thing is, we were there and we weren't there, because the cameras were there in the middle with a much more privileged position than absolutely anybody else had. There was one right above the altar. Did you notice that? I was able to show you the vision from the altar. It's like Christ's view down the nave. It's from the top of the nave, seeing the cross, which no human being except for the guys who built it back in the Middle Ages would have as a normal view. We have, presumably the helicopter pilots, like all of these viewpoints and angles and such that we are made to believe are invisible, are always the one that is actually the one that is the power, I mean, it's not Lacanian, for goodness sake, I don't do Lacan, but that sense of human power arises from our attention to each other. And obviously also it's the power, we give power to that which we worship and that which we attend to and that which we watch.
Yes.
By the grace of God. Recognizing I was in this moment, not just of the oldest book in England being carried into the Abbey, but the novelty of watching this in 2023 through all of these cameras, through the internet, through the world in its attention, and then understanding, as I saw this boy in the live stream, indeed what Kilt said at the beginning, that we need kings and we don't understand why anymore because we've lost our sense of being human.
I mean, I'm conscious of it.
I say we in the preacherly sense.
Yeah. But I think
not the royal sense. The royal.
No.
Do I get to use the royal we or just the
yes?
We,
do
the
it.
Mosaic
Do
we, which we is
it's
it,
the monarchy
right?
stream. I think.
But what I loved when I saw this boy has this great hat, right? It's like, you know, soft crown kind of thing, and it's if there is a king, there is royalty. There is our royalty. There is our dignity. Not, you know, it's like not serfs of the king, but the grubbiness that we have of our public life now is because there's literally nobody to wear that crown to lift us all out of the dirt.
There's no one to serve.
There's no one to, yes.
There's no one to serve.
And therefore,
it's
to be dignified, I should have put this in, by your service, as Sam is dignified by his service to Frodo, that we are also horribly and grubbily Republican and Democrat, whatever we are, that we don't have, I see it when I see the image of this boy who is perfectly happy wearing that cool hat, and he's just as elevated as the prince on the balcony. I mean, it's the prince and the pauper kind of feeling of this mirroring without a king to look at. And this of course is iconographically why art matters so much. If we destroy all the icons, we destroy our recognition of ourselves as made in the image and likeness. Everything becomes an iconoclasm, and you get to be iconoclastic of everything, and you get to sit there and say that all of the nastiness that we see, I mean, it's not just because we don't have a monarch, right? But it is because of the iconoclasm of modernity that it destroys all beauty, it destroys all sanctity to be equal. I mean, this is to go back to our beginning, that Tocqueville recognized this, and he's famous for all these statements about tyranny and equality and so forth, but he's saying it's a consequence of the way the United States defined equality. He saw it all coming, guys. If you're frustrated with the degree to which we have no feeling of dignity in our culture anymore, meditate on this, the importance of the king who serves, which they did put into the language of the Coronation. I think that was Welby's doing, but
yeah, they did.
But it was it was like, okay, maybe we have a way back out. Pray for Charles. He must serve. He must stop being the power broker that he was and be the servant that he now is.
We have a really interesting choice now. Like, I had the images as you were explaining the Tocqueville vision of things, and thinking, really, now in the West we have the choice between having a king or having drag queens. We want that central iconic authority with the elevated artistic, presence to be there to put our attention on. We've just replaced it with this hideous imposter cult.
The clown kings. We've got clown kings
Yeah,
instead.
Exactly. We need real ones. God save King Charles.
God save King Charles. We've got some people here who I think maybe have not heard us live before. So thank you all for your you're listening, and I'm happy that Lodi No More, he says, I missed the first 40 but glad I stayed. Good one, guys. Thank you very much. That one of the things we've been doing on the streams all year is trying to give the depth of the backstory that we hope we're putting in our Draco poem and our dragon poem, that the culture has lost this something significant, and we're trying to figure out where it is. I mean, one of the quests that our characters have is like, where did it go? And the sort of endless unpacking that we've been doing in these different registers